What's happening, everybody? Matt here, but you can call me Matub, and welcome to the Coin Toss. And today I actually have, once again, a real journalist. I don't know why people keep coming on this stupid show. Jeanna, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Jeanna Thomas. I write for the Falcoholic.com, and I'm also an NFL writer for SB Nation.
And also, you're selling yourself short. You got to be within like 10 feet of Julio Jones the other day. That was really cool.
Yeah. That's a pretty normal occurrence, actually. So it is very exciting. It has not lost its luster.
That is, I don't even know how I would react in that situation. So, today, since I have a real live Falcons fan, we are going to do the hotly debated Aaron Rodgers versus Matt Ryan, Matty Ice, who was my fantasy quarterback this year.
And you lucked out. He was great.
What's funny is because he was hot garbage last year, and so no one was really looking at him in terms of fantasy value.
Yeah.
So I'm going to flick this coin on my phone, as is tradition. And heads, you get to go for your boy. Tails, you have to go for Aaron Rodgers, and I have to go for Matty Ice. Okay, so coin flip app, can't really see much. Let's do this. And it is tails.
Ooh, all right.
Okay, so that means that we each have 1 minute to debate why the quarterback that we personally don't think should be the MVP should be the MVP. And since you are the guest, I'm going to allow you to go first. And I will be starting your timer in 3, 2, 1, go.
You know, I think that when you look at Aaron Rodgers' season, I think that you have to take it in the context of the team starting 4-6. And Rodgers was really the leader who said, we're going to go on a run. And then the Packers did. And they were able to go on a run, lock up a wild card spot. And then, obviously, we're just talking about the regular season. But I do think that it warrants mentioning that he led the team out of that 4-6 start to get to the postseason. And obviously they've performed very well since then, since they're in the championship game, even if you can't really factor that in. And he's done this without a lot of key players on offense. And so, no Eddie Lacy, no Starks. And I mean, they had to convert Ty Montgomery to a tailback so that they would have somebody who could run the ball. Jordy's been out. That's obviously problematic. So I think that Aaron has done a lot to lead this team to a great regular season finish. And especially when you look at the way that the Packers started, I think that makes a strong case for his candidacy.
That was your 1 minute. I think that's very fair. That's the argument that a lot of people have been making, is he did it without a lot of help. For example, when the Falcons and the Packers last met, the Vikings were 5-0. They ended up missing the playoffs. And the running backs were Don Jackson and Niall Davis, who are both no longer on the team.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Do you know who the
and Randall was out then too?
Yes, Randall Cobb was out, and Devontae Adams was technically their main tailback at that point. They were experimenting with the whole gadget player in the backfield. Do you know who the leading rusher for the Packers was that game?
Probably Aaron.
Yeah, 63 yards, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And that was a big theme early in the year, was people realized that the Packers receivers couldn't beat man coverage, and so they would run a lot of press man, and if Aaron saw nameplates, he would just take off and run.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I have to spend the next minute also, my problem, I keep wanting to say Matt Flynn, right? Like, I spent the last several years when talking about a quarterback named Matt, it was always Matt Flynn, and so I'm going to not say Matt Ryan at some point, and I severely apologize for it, because that is just sadly a force of habit. Okay, let's I don't feel right. Let's do this. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so when we're talking about most valuable player, we're talking about someone who led the best scoring offense in the league, and not even close. I think in terms of points per game, they beat everyone else by at least a touchdown. This is a quarterback who leads the league in touchdown percentage. He leads the league in yards per attempt. I mean, every efficiency stat when it comes to throwing the ball, Matt Ryan is in the lead. We're in a quarterback-driven league, and so the most valuable player, the way the game is played today, is always going to be a quarterback. The last time it wasn't a quarterback was Adrian Peterson, and he got like 2,000 yards, came within, I think it was 9 of breaking the regular season record. Yeah. Matt Ryan is playing statistically as the best quarterback in the best offense, which should automatically make him the most valuable player, as well as being the AP first-team All-Pro quarterback, which in the history of the... dang it. Okay, let me finish my thought. In the history of the league, AP first team has always been the decider for MVP.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty easy to make a case for Ryan. So
absolutely, I think it's very easy. The main argument that people have against Rodgers is, the first 10 weeks of the season. The first 10 weeks of the season, he still had like 25 touchdowns and a 94 passer rating. And they're like, oh, well, they went 4-6, but they would have gone 0-10 if Brett Hundley was starting. So
yeah, they would have. And I do think that Rodgers has elevated the talent around him, but I think that you can say the same thing about Matt Ryan. I mean, Julio Jones aside, obviously Julio Jones is Julio Jones, but when you're given guys like Aldrick Robinson, who nobody heard of before this year, 100-yard game, you're elevating the play of the players around you. Taylor Gabriel, undrafted free agent who was cut by the Browns, comes in and looks like a Pro Bowl caliber player. That's not Taylor Gabriel. Mm-hmm. That's Matt Ryan.
Oh, absolutely. So. And I would say that Matt Ryan is playing out of his mind, especially compared, because he's always been a very good offensive player. This is a statistical outlier in his career. He is just monstrous out of nowhere. Do you think that's Shanahan's doing, or?
I think that it's a combination of a few things. The reason that he was bad last year, it was primarily because it was the first year in a new system. And it wasn't just a new system. When they went from Mike Mularkey to Dirk Cutter, they kept all of the offensive terminology the same for Ryan. And so when Shanahan came in, they changed everything. So he wasn't just learning a new offense, he was learning essentially a completely new language. And so having another off season to really acclimate to that has made a big difference. But then also players have told me that Ryan did this Camp Falcons thing in the offseason where he brought the whole offense to Miami and he paid for everything. And they just spent time together, like learning the offense and getting acclimated to the scheme and to each other. And so I just think that his chemistry with his receivers has been so good. He has so much more confidence in them. And he has so much more confidence in the pocket because of the addition of Alex Mack. Oh, and that's maybe the most underrated aspect of it. Like last year, they had Mike Person, a converted guard, who couldn't shotgun snap a football. Like he had no business playing center. It was atrocious. And so just the stability that Mack brings, and it's elevated the guard play on either side of him because they're not trying to compensate for a guy who doesn't know how to play the position. So I think it's really those three factors.
Oh, absolutely. A big part of when the Packers made their push to the Super Bowl, their center was sitting in Rodgers' lap for most of the season, and then when they finally elevated the center play is when they kind of... Because the 2010 Packers had a very similar road to the Super Bowl the way that this Packers team did, is they were underdogs, and then they got hot at the right time.
They went into Philadelphia, I remember, and won. Mm-hmm. I think that was that year. And that was when the Falcons had a bye, and we had an ice storm here. And everyone was like, oh, no, it's going to throw everything off. And then I remember being in the Georgia Dome for that game. My ex-husband is from Wisconsin. He's a Packers fan. So I was there with him. I was surrounded by Packers fans. And, Wisconsin people are so nice. So they all felt sorry for me. They were all like, oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry. Because it was just so humiliating. It was the worst loss.
Well, so do you know what happened is the defensive end, I can't remember his name, sacked Rodgers and did the belt.
John Abraham.
Yeah.
And when you make Aaron Rodgers mad, he will light you up.
So there are 3 instances of players mocking the belt. There's that Falcons game. There is the game against the Chiefs when Jamal Charles did it in the end zone, and then Rodgers went for, I think it was 4 touchdowns. And then there was the game against the Texans when the Texans were coming off like a 10-win streak or something. J.J. Watt did the belt and then threw it away. Rodgers went for 4 touchdowns and ran in another one. Like, it was just don't mock the belt. Everyone knows that.
It's a good rule of thumb.
So, I guess we should. What's your prediction for the game? Like, truly, honestly, no bias.
So I'm on record with this. I'm around this team every week. I feel their confidence. I've seen the way they played all season. My prediction is 34-31 Falcons, and I think it's going to really come down to whoever has the ball last.
Okay.
So I could be wrong, because if the Packers have the ball last, I think that they'll probably win, knowing the way that Rodgers can pull out those late game saves. But I'm predicting 34-31 Falcons, late game field goal for Matt Bryant to close down the Georgia Dome. I think that'd be very fitting. So that is my prediction.
That's totally fair. The way I see it happening is if both teams score more than 35 points, I'm siding with the Packers, because I think that Rodgers, in a situation where you have to score a touchdown on 7+ drives, that I would take Rodgers to make fewer mistakes than Ryan. Ryan's been great this year, but Rodgers is playing on another level. However, if both teams score less than 35, and we see the Falcons offense that we did against the Seahawks, where they can chew 7 minutes of clock purposefully and still score a touchdown, that terrifies me.
Yeah.
And so I think the Packers secondary, being made up of garbage and street free agents and all that, is actually going to cause the Falcons to lose the time of possession battle, because they're going to score too fast.
That's actually a fair consideration.
And so I think we're going to see a lot of big plays happen, and Dom Capers' magnificently heart-wrenching bend don't break, air quotes, is going to do 1 or 2 takeaways. And so I think the game's going to be a little lower scoring. I think it's going to be 31-28. Whoops, I hit some buttons there. So I think it's going to be 31-28, with the Packers barely eking it out. But I think it's going to be exciting. So those are, to me, the two options. It's either going to be a super shootout and the Packers possibly pulling out a win, or the Falcons winning the time of possession, managing to chew clock, and just embarrassing the Packers defense. I have 2 predictions based on whatever happens.
I think it's going to be a phenomenal game either way.
Oh, absolutely. And nothing makes me happier than Aaron Rodgers in a dome late in the season. He tends to do really well. But our best corner right now is Ladarius Gunter, who is a press man corner and does not do well against receivers who can beat the press. Like, I don't know, Julio Jones.
Julio Jones, even if he's not 100%, like, you do not want to put him in man coverage.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
what the Panthers tried to do in week 3, and he went off for 300 yards. Like, you just should not.
Speaking
you
of,
just should not.
That guy's on our practice squad now.
Oh, really?
the guy that Julio burnt.
Benny?
Yeah.
Okay.
I keep calling him Beignet. I can't remember his
Ben Wickery? Ben Wickery? I don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah, but it's something
like that.
Yeah, he got cut by the Panthers and then went to the Dolphins.
After that game.
Yep, and now he is on our practice squad.
Well, my goodness.
So currently playing corner, we have an undrafted free agent, an injured first-round pick who's dealing with a knee, a groin, an abdominal, and a foot injury. That would be Demarius Randall. We have a second-round guy who played 1 year of football in college, Quentin Rollins, who he's got great ball skills and he's decent in zone coverage, but because he has the athleticism to make up for his mistakes. But in man, he's just hot garbage. There's a great throw that Matt Stafford had against him where he just dropped a dime and put it right over. Rollins has ups, but
I remember the play, yeah.
And then we've got, assuming Morgan Burnett doesn't play because he is injured, we're going to have undrafted free agent Kentrell Bryce as our strong safety, who he can lay the wood, but he can't cover. So basically, our secondary is a undrafted free agent from Miami and Clinton Dix, and that's it. So.
And I mean that is problematic against a team like the Falcons, where Matt Ryan has hit 13 different receivers for touchdowns this year. So it's I mean, they're tough to defend for any defense, but when you've got those injuries and those weaknesses in the secondary, it does make things more complicated.
Oh, absolutely. And we're also going against what I would argue is the best running back tandem in the league. I don't even think it's even close. I don't think there's a 1-2 punch.
I would agree. Just in terms of talent and their productivity, not just in the run game, but also through the air. I mean, they're both dangerous out of the backfield as receivers. So they're both really hard to cover.
Absolutely. And our inside backer situation isn't super great either.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that...
I feel your pain there. Like, they've upgraded that for Atlanta, but that was us for a long time. Like, watching running backs or tight ends come across the middle every time, like, you just cringe and you just do not want to see what's going to happen because you know it's going to be bad. I've been there, so I get it.
So, fun fact for you. Do you know why a halfback angle route is called a Texas route?
No.
It's because they have as much open room as the state of Texas.
Oh.
And against our defense, that is going to be so true. Because we're going to see Jake Ryan going up against Tevin Coleman, and I think Jake ran like a 4.7 at the combine. Like, yeah,
that should be interesting.
So, and that was a big help. Was we had Morgan Burnett playing in the middle for a while, covering tight ends and running backs very well. I mean, because, and that I'm trying to remember the name for that situation, that hybrid safety linebacker. I've been calling it the Buchanan backer. Because like Dayon Buchanan was the first person I can really remember converting to a full-time inside linebacker from safety. I've heard the term nickelbacker.
SB Nation did a whole article on that. I can't remember what they called it. But yeah, that hybrid position is pretty interesting.
And Morgan Burnett switched there, and he's been playing really well. I actually think if Burnett comes back and plays healthy, that we might move Kentrell Bryce because he's athletic enough to cover a tight end, but in man coverage, he's just been burnt. So it's well, this went off the rails, but in the absolute best way possible. But it has been great talking with you. I will love to have you back anytime. I'd
love to come back anytime.
Awesome. Well, Jeanna, go ahead, plug anything that you want to plug. You have...
Okay, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Jeanna Thomas, Jeanna. It's spelled weird. My parents are weird. And then you can find my work at the Falcoholic and also over at SB Nation.
All right, and you've been, since I started following you on Twitter, you do a lot for the SB Nation, just straight up NFL stuff.
Yeah, I do. That is my full-time job. And so that's, really my primary focus. And I love it. I love what I do. I'm very lucky to get to do what I do. So I'm a little bit tired these days and like super busy, but it is a lot of fun. And I feel very fortunate to get to do what I do.
Well, that's why you got to cover a team like the Rams where you're done after 16 weeks.
True. And plus you can just pre-write like the 7-9 finish. Like you can just have everything set to go by the time it all wraps up.
All right, guys. As always, I'm Matt, but you can call me Matub, and that does it for the coin toss this week. Have a great week. Go Pack Go, and good luck, Falcons.
Good luck to you, too.